Mr. IMAMURA Akira, Ambassador of Japan to Georgia. Welcome to Georgia Today interview.
Thank you very much for having me today.
30 years of diplomatic relations we celebrate this year. Could you sum it up and more specifically tell us about the achievements since your appointment?
The Japan and Georgia has been developing very good relations in many areas like politics, economics, cultural ties. And its strengths over the course of 30 years has always been its shared values of democracy, human rights, rule of law, and freedom. That's why we've been supporting very strongly Georgia's nation building, sovereignty, as well as territorial integrity. We're one of the leading countries in supporting Georgia's efforts for reconstruction after the 2008 war. So we're very pleased to see the development and the progress that Georgia has made over the course of these 30 years. We're very proud of your achievement. I came to Georgia at the end of 2020. It was in the middle of lockdown. So naturally, my focus was to help Georgia's impact of COVID-19 on its society and economy. So we implemented several projects by providing medical equipment, training to medical personnel. Also, we have offered a soft loan to small and medium-sized business, which suffered most during this difficult time. That was mostly 2021. And then as we moved on to 22, of course, we organized many cultural events to celebrate this anniversary, starting from art exhibition, sakura tree planting, tea ceremony, events in the sphere of music, literature, even sushi exhibition, and anime film show. So we're going to continue this towards the end of this year. But at the same time, the invasion of Russia against Ukraine prompted our countries to closely coordinate our policies, facing this huge challenge of how to maintain and strengthen rule-based, free and open international order. So in April, we organized a foreign ministers meeting. In May, we had a visit by Parliamentary Vice Minister to Tbilisi. And in August, commemoration of the 30-year anniversary, on that occasion, two prime ministers and foreign ministers exchanged letters. And in that letter, our Prime Minister, Fumio Kishida, offered to use the potential of cooperation between Georgia and Japan even further, saying that Georgia is an important partner in promoting and maintaining the rule-based order, open and free international order. So my priority here is to promote this policy coordination at various levels.
Can Georgia and Japan expand that scale of economic relations? And if so, what should the Georgian government do? Are there any obstacles?
I think over the course of 30 years, most of our economic relations were led by donor-recipient ties, and business-to-business cooperation were a little bit lagging behind. Although we have seen a very strong car trade and investment decision by a Japanese energy giant like TEPCO in Georgia has been made. So the task for Georgian and Japanese governments is to promote these positive tendencies. What we have done in my first year here in Georgia is to strengthen the legal framework for the promotion and protection of investment by signing two treaties, investment treaty and taxation treaty with the Georgian government's ministers. And so this year, our priority is to provide the explanation, information to Japanese business, especially by Georgian government. What are the opportunities, challenges for Japanese companies who are interested in doing business in Georgia? Because in Japan, Japanese business are a little bit concerned about this impact of a war in Ukraine. They're concerned that it may spill over to Georgia. So we're now planning to hold Japan Business Forum at the end of October and the beginning of November here in Tbilisi with the participation of Japanese companies. We're hoping that through this forum, Japanese companies will receive objective information and understand better about what are the advantages of doing business in Georgia.
In the past few months, polarization has become a vital issue for the country. What would be your advice? What should the political parties, media, and the society do?
I think Georgia has to really seriously address this huge question of polarization, promote dialogue, constructive dialogue between different political parties, consensus building, making compromise. These are the essence of the democratic process in any democracies. And for that, my advice is to stop criticizing persons or personality and focus on debate on policy. Well, you have to very much respect each other in political debate. For example, in Japan, we have in our Japanese language honorific form, and almost without exception, when Japanese politicians debate to each other, they use this honorific form. This is a sign of your respect towards your counterpart. And my second advice is to have an independent media. In case of Georgia, I must say that Georgia media is a little too politicized, and the independence has to be strengthened. Otherwise, this politicized media exacerbates the current polarization in politics even further. Independence of media is necessary for the people to receive unbiased information, not one-sided, but different various opinions, so that they can make a sound judgment.
The US is interested in dragging Georgia into the war. This is the most resonant accusations we've heard in the past few months from some political parties. What's the opinion of the ambassador of the country, which has a close partnership with the US?
Well, I would like to refer you to Ambassador of the United States and European Union on this issue. I fully support their position. I don't think either United States or European Union was trying to bring Georgia into war or open a second front. I think this is just false allegations based on ungrounded assumptions. It may even create false impression that Georgia is not serious or weaker in its commitment towards Euro-Atlantic integration. But I think people's choice has already made towards that Euro-Atlantic aspiration, which I very much support. Some may say, while criticizing the West, they say that Georgia cannot become a member of the European Union and it should better stick to its tradition. But I think this is also totally ungrounded, because look at Japan. Japan demonstrated that we can achieve mature democracy, at the same time preserve its unique tradition and culture. I think these two are not incompatible, and sometimes it's mutually complementing each other. So if Japan was able to do it, why not Georgia?
Besides political polarization, attacks on Georgian media are also a problem. What would be the advice of the ambassador?
I think the safety of journalists in Georgia is under question right now. It's very essential also factor for any democracy. It's closely linked with the freedom of media. If the journalists are not safe, then there will be no freedom of media at all. So when we heard about this July 5th incident when the many journalists were attacked, we're very much shocked and condemned the perpetrators. And we called for those who were responsible as to be made accountable, hold accountable. And we were very much concerned that this situation still continues. The threat towards journalists are the news of Georgia is not rare and sometimes very often. We'd like to contribute to betterment of the environment for journalists to be safer and protected legally. And we have made a contribution to a fund called the Global Media Defense Fund, administered by UNESCO. This was created to help NGOs in member countries to promote this kind of better environment for journalist safety and advocacy for the importance of safety of the journalist. So if there's any interested NGOs in Georgia, I would encourage them to submit a proposal for projects so that they can promote this important protection of the journalists in Georgia even further.
Ambassador IMAMURA Akira, it was my pleasure to have an interview with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.